disappointed in every one of you.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I kiss you on the mouth.
No, I'm not cool with that. I'm sorry.
One more time.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
I mean, I'm dealing with degenerate animals.
Wait.
I'm disappointed in every one of you. Disappointed in every one of you.
All right, come on.
Honestly, I can't do it no more.
I'm disappointed in every one of you.
Let me tell you why.
It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
You just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. Got nothing.
I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA boxing.
Well. Welcome everybody to another Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the True North. The host is your good friend, Mr. PDA, and I sure am glad that everybody could be on board for this one, fellas. Today we've got a special episode for everybody because we're going to be talking about some of the business aspects of boxing, the business side, and how the networks are restructuring themselves, and perhaps boxing might not factor into the equation. We're going to talk about all of that plus more. We're going to be taking your phone calls by the end of the hour. But before we get down to the fun, let's get the business out of the way, fellas. You know the drill. Don't forget you can check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and Spreaker at your leisure. If you want to donate with the super chat, you're more than welcome. Send a couple of shekels our way for maintenance purposes. But it's always better if you join the membership program. That way you get more bang for your buck. Special emojis, badges, the whole shebang. But the most important thing is you continue to like, subscribe, spread that BDA gospel. There's a lot of dirty people out there that need to be washed by the BDA gospel, which is really the only way to salvation in this boxing world. Be that as it may, shout out to everybody in the chat. I'm talking about the Chitlin Distributor, Sergeant Z, USMC, Fluffy Toasters 89, Never Sobers, CCD founder. Wait a minute, I don't think you're the CCD founder. Shout out to the Don in the house as well. Omar E, Virtuoso, Double L, F the Woke, Iceman, Team Batman Boxing, Alejandro Solis, Fender Bender, Skull Kid, Nes Mendoza in the house, Hyper Spaz. How many more people to come? I'm sure, fellas, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate you being here, fellas. Skull Kids just reminded me. Actually, no, he didn't remind me. He let me know because I didn't even know it was tomorrow. Plant versus Benavides. Apparently, that is official. I don't know if the fight's official yet, but they're having a press conference. You just never know how the PBC does it nowadays. And we're going to be talking about that. That's the main topic of discussion here for the moment. But yes, if you like press conferences where guys swear at each other, there's a lot of hand gestures, there's a lot of grotesque hand gestures, I think the tomorrow's press conference is going to be to your liking. I think there's going to be a lot of trash talking. And these guys genuinely appear to dislike each other. If I had to bet, I would say they dislike each other. And so we're going to see what happens. Could there be some sort of physical hijinks, some transgressions occurring? In other words, a slap fight, like we saw between Canelo and Killer Plant, what was it, a year ago? Or more, a little bit more than a year ago, perhaps. Perhaps. You just never know, fellas. That's what's exciting about boxing. You just never know. Anyway, let me call a couple of people here and start talking about the main topic of discussion, which is Paramount Plus, which is apparently, I think they used to be CBS. They're now going to be restructuring and assimilating the Showtime premium channel into their app. Now, we knew this from a couple of weeks ago, but now it is official. And they're going to be saying more. They're going to be saying more in a press conference in February, I believe. So we're going to take a look at the article and the press release that talked about that. And we're going to just try to piece things together and just speculate about whether there is a future for boxing in Paramount Plus. I've got Gonzalo and the Jimerino joining me. Fellas, are you there? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yellow. Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
Hello, what's up?
Yes. Okay. So, all right, let's get right into it, fellas. Let me read you the news that we were talking, because we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, but now it's official and it's really lighting the boxing world afire. This is what we've got here. Hopefully, you guys can see the screen I'm sharing here. Showtime will be absorbed into Paramount Plus. What could that mean for boxing? So, there was a press release an announcement from Bob Backish and Chris McCarthy, who's the president and CEO of Paramount Media Networks. And they're going to be restructuring, they said, the Showtime Premium Cable, and they're going to be merging it into Paramount Plus. Here's what he had to say about that. He said, I'm thrilled to share the next step in our company's evolution. The next evolution. Today, we're announcing that we will be fully integrating Showtime into Paramount Plus across streaming and linear platforms later this year, providing even more popular franchises and hit originals for viewers to enjoy. To reflect this change, both our premium streaming tier on Paramount Plus and the Showtime linear network will become Paramount Plus with Showtime in the USA. That's pertinent to me because I'm in Canada. We don't get Showtime here. So I don't know how this would work in Canada if we would even have access to a Paramount Plus app. But here's the interesting part, though. Chris McCartney said as a follow-up, redirecting investment into Showtime's strengths. As part of Paramount Plus, we can put more resources into building out the lanes that have made the Showtime brand famous, such as complex characters, stories with complex characters, and powerful worlds in scripted series like Yellow Jackets, Dexter, and Billions, among others. But then this is what Bad Left Hook has to say. Conspicuously and completely absent from both the Backish and McCartney memos, outlining both Showtime's notable history and the vision for future Paramount Plus with Showtime, are the words sports and boxing. I reiterate that. They're talking about the stories and their drama shows and that's the core, the nexus of Showtime, but they don't mention boxing or sports. So a lot of people are scratching their heads going, oh, what does that mean? Another interesting line here from McCartney's memo. We will divert investment away from areas that are underperforming and that account for less than 10% of our views. So, fellas, what does that mean for Showtime Boxing? Their viewers, the viewership that they've had right now, according to what I remember Jimmy was saying, not that good. I mean, the Tank Davis, who's supposed to be the face of American boxing, his replay with Hector Garcia did horrible numbers. Jimmy, what do you make of all of this?
No, it did absolutely. It did atrocious numbers. It barely did enough viewers to register on the Nelson ratings. My thing is this: it's like I instantly come to because I don't know, I haven't been near a device all day, so this is news to me. And as you're saying it, I swear to God, I hear the fucking Queen song. Don't. Fucking Haymon takes another fucking one down, because if he didn't suck so bad, right, and didn't put on such shitty fights so often that the numbers were terrible, they lost money on the big fights, they paid Wilder millions of dollars, didn't even hit 1 million views. I mean, of course they're not going to carry that fat. They're going to look at that and go, yeah, gone. But if he would have at least put on some decent fights at reasonable costs, remember, they came in throwing a lot of money around, then he had those fighters after that Waddell Reed investor money was gone. They rely on the stipend that Showtime would give them. And that could have been spread any way they saw. But they paid fucking shitbag dudes who are fighting in shitbag fights. I'm sorry, man. I'm so disgusted. They had so many opportunities to turn that fucking shit on. And, yeah, so it's up to him, and you saw the writing on the wall when Fox bailed, and then all of a sudden, the last few fights on Showtime that weren't on pay-per-view were these real garbage fucking low-tier fights that were headlined. I'm like, wow, they're really not paying anybody money. Yeah, it's not surprising. He did it to Showtime. Showtime numbers got so bad under Haymon that when it was time to restructure, with Peter Nelson, they said, yeah, boxing's gone. They just cut it outright. Remember, they didn't fold into an app. They just cut the strings to the most powerful, the gold standard of boxing programming. HBO said, you're a dog, and cut it loose because of Haymon. That was under his tenure. And he came to Showtime. Had all that fucking money, could have did it right, and he didn't. Could have gave up matchups, could have made, people fucking tune in big numbers, could have made it profitable, but that wasn't the case because he's not a boxing guy. And you just reading that, when you left, I'm listening to you and I'm waiting for you to say, and they're going to carry boxing or they're still going to focus hard on sports. The fact that they omitted that is huge. They're not bringing it with them. It's gone. Boxing's gone. Should have told you someone. They didn't have any dates. All these fights they're having, right? No dates past March. So, yeah, not surprised. I mean, I thought it was I honestly thought maybe September, past the second quarter, but they're not even waiting for the second quarter. They're just trimming fat now. So did they give the merger date, Mr. BDA?
I think they're going to be saying more in February. The 20th of February or somewhere around late February, they're going to talk more. But they're going to let us know more about what's in store for Showtime or Paramount Plus, as it's now called. But let me just read a super chat here real quick. Shout out to Tyrese Buey. Shout out to Tyrese Buey. Says PBC on Tubi by 225. Well, shout out to Tyrese. But that brings up a good question, though, that Tyrese just introduced. Where could PBC, because this doesn't necessarily mean that PBC is over, because they do have, okay, let's start with the basics here. Jimmy, these guys use Al Haymon as an advisor, the PBC fighters.
Yes.
So, all right, yep. PBC is not a promotional entity as such.
Nope.
Okay, so what happens if they have no network? Would the contract, you'd have to assume that the contract speculates we can get you fights, right? Because if they can get them fights, then wouldn't that be some sort of a dispute with the contract there? Again, we don't know the details, but what would you assume? What would you speculate would occur?
Well, honestly, why I assume this was, my thing was this: if the Fulton fight was going to happen with Inoue, that was telling me that Showtime was getting out of boxing, because they wouldn't have let the young, most talented fighter, one of the most talented fighters, fight off platform. They just wouldn't have allowed it. They just wouldn't have. They had fighters on his side of the street they could have fought. So that told me, when all of a sudden I was a report, the last thing I read about boxing, I think it was last night, Bob said that they're in the works right now. The Fulton deal is close to being done with Inoue. I was like, wow. Holy shit. Instead of being like optimistic, like, wow, okay, great. Now we've got to be right away. I'm like, okay, that must mean Showtime's fucking really going under, because they wouldn't allow that. So that's telling you that Haymon might still stay on as advisor, but you'll start seeing fighters. They'll have to fight on other networks. They'll have to go fight on DAZN. They'll have to fight wherever they can, unless Haymon signs a deal with an app, like, Black Prime or something. But then what's that going to be? Every single fight will have to be a pay-per-view, because it's not going to be it's not a service. So he's going to have to set something up like that where you're paying monthly subscription for fucking PBC. Are you kidding me? I mean, think about it. The fights that they said, they were all the fights that I heard that they had scheduled, they were talking about that were going to happen through April. There was 5 or 6 of them. Every one were pay-per-view. Do the math, man. Anyways, what were you about to say, Mr. BD? Yeah,
they've got fights like, what's his name? Ray Vargas is going to be fighting soon, and they've got Matias as well. None of those guys, that's Showtime, by the way. None of those guys, I suspect, are going to be getting paid over $1 million. I suspect they're going to be getting paid under. Now, the guys that do demand at least $1 million or whatever, Caleb Plant, Tank Davis, those guys are all on pay-per-view. Errol Spence with Deontay Wilder. So, like you said, do the math. We're getting fights that aren't all that great on Showtime, or regular Showtime. And again, this is the thing that people have to remind themselves. But again, this is how you understand that there's people out there that aren't paying for any of this, because they're just stealing it. Showtime is premium cable. So on top of paying your cable bill, your basic package, whatever package you have, if you want Showtime, you got to pay extra on top of that. So that means that the standards should be higher. So fucking Ray Vargas versus Shiki Foster, yeah, interesting fight, but Showtime? Really? Like, would you have expected that 10 years ago? Either on Showtime or HBO, especially HBO? Forget about it. So now, all of a sudden, you're starting to see, like you said, that they're just building you a picture here. And Jimmy, here's the other thing, and Gonzalo too. When they talk about, well, they could go to another app, PBC. It's not that easy, because like you said, Black right now, Prime, they're offering these fights on pay-per-view, a la carte, meaning you choose whether you want to watch or not. starting an app and starting putting boxing, it's not that easy. We saw what happened with Triller. Even though they had a good attraction in Jake Paul. The Zone, for example, a lot of people look at the Zone, they go, oh, they're hemorrhaging money. Yeah, because they're buying up all these primo properties like Champions League and I forget which other football leagues. And on top of that, they also have professional wrestling and boxing. Boxing is just one part of it. And they've got investors that have decided to hunker down for the long haul. It's not a work offer like the one they had of the PBC, which, again, let's not forget, these guys are suing. The Wild Reed guys are suing Al Haymon, or somebody's suing Al Haymon over all of that. So to just say, well, he can just move to another platform, it's not that easy, folks. Not that easy. It's not like there's a plethora of mom and pop apps out there. It's not like we can just say to Tank Davis, yeah, come, we'll do it on BDA Boxing. We'll host the fight. That shit doesn't work. It's complicated, from what I understand. I could be wrong. But what else was I going to ask? Okay, so if PBC or Showtime no longer carries boxing, you expect that a lot of these guys are going to go to other places, but they will still have to give their hard-earned money to Al Haymon. Jimmy, that's what you're saying. Now, if that's true...
Yes. I didn't know you were posing it as a question. Yes, that they would absolutely have 15%. And it's funny, too, because, didn't you say that Bernard Hopkins just kind of called him out the other day on it? Called out Haymon on his... because it was, according to him, that he's the one who really pushed for the Ali Act, and he swerved it. That's why, Tom Brown, I used to have decent things about him. You know what I mean? He was a small-time guy. Dude, I have no respect for anybody who let their license be used. Sam Lukowitz, Lou DiBella, Tom Brown. These guys, they're just shills. They're not real promoters. They have no say. It's just their license he's using. He still calls all the shots, which is illegal. That's a federal offense. But because you got guys willing to use their license, man, the feds aren't going to fucking go for it. I mean, if there was a big lawsuit, say if a bunch of his fighters, it's probably even in their contract that they can't even sue him, who God knows. But if a bunch of fighters actually pulled it some kind of collective lawsuit, just went at him and was willing to testify that he called all the shots, but then the guys would lose their promoters' licenses, so they're not going to testify to that bullshit. But I'm just saying, plus at his age, it just would be a hassle. It would be better for him just to walk away. But even then, he'll still be in an advisory role. He'll be getting his slices of the pie.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing, though. Because if he goes to another network, I suspect the same Haymon hijinks are going to occur. He's going to start saying, fight this guy, fight that guy. These are the type of fights that I want to make. And again, that's something that I want to address. If he's in control
of the fights, nothing's going to change. They got to be Nielsen rating bombs. His fights... I mean, for Christ's sakes, I remember, I've seen tweets where people have shown that, they've been literally, reruns of Dateline in 48 hours, crushing them. I mean, especially in the key demographic, 18 to 49, that's really what the advertisers and the network looks at. And it was always terrible in that. Even if it did halfway decent numbers, it just didn't do good numbers in the key demographic, 18 to 49. That's where all the money's at, because it's where advertisers look at. And but yeah, so he put on shit, and hey, the fucking Roos, and it's not like he can't go work a deal. Because think about it. Let's look at who he's used. CBS, they're not going to work with him anymore. He bought time slots from them. Paid for the commercials. He did for everything, right? I mean, NBC. ESPN, Fox. I think ABC is the only network that PBC didn't have any guys on. I know he had him on a bunch of smaller second tier guys, didn't he have him once on BET, and then he put a couple on one of the small subsidiary networks. But yeah, he's already burnt bridges, and by burning bridges meaning they saw what happened. That's such an unusual thing for somebody to come up to a TV, especially one of the big networks like NBC. We're just going to buy the hour. What would you make on, that time slot, 9 o'clock on a Saturday? 10 million. Crazy fucking money they would have had to pay that for that time slot. right? Just to get it going. That's where a lot of that money went. I ended up because I try to figure out, not to sidestep, where did all the money went? Because it was 700 and some odd, well, $750 million. I'm like, and he was broke that quick. I'm like, I was just trying to do the math, like going through the fights, adding up maximum amount, giving them even more than they probably would have made if it wasn't already written down somewhere. And I'm like, it doesn't even come near halfway near that kind of money gone. Then I found out, somebody said, yeah, on top of paying the fighters and paying all that other shit, he had to buy the hour. It wasn't just going to say, okay, you take care of the commercials, you can have the hour. They had to make it worth the network's thing. And how it was is he paid top dollar to get those hours on a Sunday night, on a Saturday night prime. And then, of course, the network who he's pitching a deal with, let me tell you, it's like a dealer. Here we go. First one's free, trying to give them the good high, right? And have them come back for more, except they didn't get high. They looked at the product. They looked at the fucking numbers going, are you shitting me? We could run fucking reruns of 48 hours and it'll do better than this. I'm not spending anywhere near that for no money. And this guy's fucking paying millions of dollars to these fighters. Look at it. It was 2.5 years before he owned right off the rip. May of 2015, PBC had the welterweight, 154, and there was another division on lockdown. I mean, he had the fighters. And it took 2.5 years before he gave us the first big welterweight matchup. It was always Robert Guerrero against some fucking no-hoper, or just, it was just never, there was never any buzz about his fights. There was never okay, if this guy fights this guy, this is the avenue we're going. So there was no trajectory you could get into. Okay, so if he beats him, then we know it's going to be this guy. It was just random dates, and again, how we did in the beginning. Remember, he came out wanting to put everybody else out of business and fold everything under the PBC, and then he was going to make his own belts and get rid of the sanctioned bodies. Basically, the UFC with boxing, like for years he said he could. So in the beginning, he didn't even give a shit about anything like that. He just wanted to buy up all the TV time slots, and he did all the dates. And that first year were rough for guys to try to get their fights on. But the thing is, he put no imagination into the fights, and they sucked. And the numbers plummeted, and he didn't sell one fucking subscription to anybody. Well, Fox ended up doing a deal with them, but that was it. Fox wasn't supporting it or paying for it. So, and now even them, they bailed on the fucking thing early. You don't think that plays, oh my God, no executive is going to risk their job taking a gamble on an already proven, multiple time proven dog. All right. Fox had a 4-year deal. They bailed on the 3rd year. All right. Every network that he went into business with the anticipation of them later buying time, events off him and them paying for it. Not one did it. So his whole game plan changed. Take boxing off of, do away with the pay-per-view model. That was his own. That came out in his press release. We're here to put boxing back on free TV. The ridiculous price of pay-per-views, and it's a, platform rife with piracy. For the weasel to turn around and then throw every trash fight on as a fucking pay-per-view and expect fans to finance it. That's why I have such little respect for PBC fans as a whole, because, wait a minute, you were a fan because this guy was fucking going to make boxing free. Now you're a fan when this guy is putting everything on as a pay-per-view, dude? Do you have, any standards? But yeah, so I'm not going to cry any tears over this fuck.
Well, I want to say something about that, though, because shout out to, and this is a nice transition here, shout out to Never Sobers for his contribution with the Super Chat. He says, Showtime boxing status, bye-bye Miss American Pie. Oh, he's tying it to boxing there, because that's with the Tyson Fury song there that he's always singing. Shout out to Never Sobers. But listen, when they said in the article, 37 years Showtime boxing has been in the business, and it's kind of sad when something lasts that long and all of a sudden, whoop, bye-bye. Again, we don't even know yet if they're completely getting rid of boxing, but if they are, it's kind of sad. Flip side to that coin, however, look, Showtime's been on the decline for the last 3 years, at least, with Al Haymon at the helm. And not for nothing, but the commentating team, look, Mauro Ranallo looks like a good guy. He looks like a good guy, but with the commentating, fuego, all the time. It's like, all right, take it easy. Al Bernstein's turning into a fucking,
woke
Pac-Man
idiot.
or whatever. Was that?
A woke idiot.
Well, I mean, listen.
The shit he's been
that.
tweeting. Oh my God, that's probably why.
Yeah,
He probably knew his job was gone. That suddenly went crazy. Okay, go, brother.
At least he keeps it out of the boxing, out of the telecast. He's not going around pontificating about George Floyd and St. George Floyd or anything like that. But he's sort of been getting a little bit more grumpy now. I forget. He's in his 80s now, I think. Or 70s, right? I mean, he's getting
exactly 80 years old.
And then you've got Abner Mares, who is okay as a commentator. I would say Paulie Malignaggi was better. So Showtime has been on the decline. The fights that they've been putting on have been subpar. They've got huge chunks of the year where nothing happens in terms of boxing. So hey, let these guys, the PBC guys, go on over to another network. It's not like they're gonna. It's not like this causes them to retire. It just means Showtime's out of the way, and somebody else can take over. Like HBO, they got out of the way. The Zone and ESPN picked up the slack, and it's been okay so far. But yeah, Jimmy, what were you gonna say?
No, I said that explains because Bernstein only tweeted about sports, only baseball and boxing for years. Even during Trump, he didn't really fuck with woke shit and anti-Trump shit. And all of a sudden, the last few months, he's been going ballistic, talking about the Oscars, hashtag oh so white, Oscars oh so white, like complaining about white people and shit. Like, I even tagged him, I even tweeted, basically just told him, you realize vast majority of the country despises this ideology you're pushing. And then, Haymonite's got him too. He said, you're 80 years old, for Christ's sakes. Why are you trying so hard? If you don't care about yourself, at least respect you. If you have no self-respect, at least respect your broadcast career. And I think they followed each other for a while too. Yeah, and he ballisted him. So obviously, I think he realized, like, fuck it, I'm going to say what I want to say now, which is just strange. So he was bottling it all up, I guess. And you can tell that, Espinoza has been snarky as a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Snapping at people and shit on Twitter. So I think he saw it. He knows he's never going to have it as good. He was in charge of everything. They put him in charge of everything. He was in charge of their the football program there. It was actually a pretty good football show with the four guys sitting around talk once a week. But he was in charge of that. He was in charge of everything. And everything he was in charge of, the numbers dropped. So I know he's been oppressed his whole life being,
That's right.
of Hispanic descent. So now he's really going to feel it.
He grew up in the barrio. Fucking Tres Puntos and Islos, man. Come on now. I saw him in, I don't know if you know this, but he had a big part in American Me. And he was actually a consultant to make it more greedy, more realistic, the movie. But hey, listen, shout out to Tyrese Buey. Well, I don't know why I keep butchering his name. He says Keith versus Sean and Sean versus Errol Spence should have deserved a rematch. Absolutely. See, that's what I understand. Look, Keith Thurman versus Sean Porter was a good fight. It's one of the best fights they put on. And on CBS. Free, I believe. Why no rematch? Why did they okay, then the next year, we got Keith Thurman versus Danny Garcia at 250 fighters, but why not just make Sean Porter again the rematch? It seems like they were just moving pieces together randomly. All right, let's make this fight next. Or it's almost like they had a list of all the fighters they had, and they were just throwing darts at it. Or maybe in Al Haymon's case, a dildo or something. I don't know. And they was just, see what sticks. This guy, where does this guy? Yeah, let's make it happen. They're not even the same weight division. Who cares? They're there now. Let's make it happen. It was bizarre. It just goes to show you again, Haymon is not really a boxing guy. And by the way, shout out to Will, the degenerate boxing fan Lynch, for his contribution with the super chat. He says, I hate to admit it, but I had to mute Al Bernstein because I can't take the lies and the deflection. The irony is, he's my favorite commentator in boxing. Oh, well, shout out to Will for his contribution. And, I haven't heard Bernstein too much deflection and all that, but he does seem more grumpy now. Maybe I'd have to rewatch some of the fights and hear the commentary. But yeah, man, it's just PBC was just going all over the place.
And I agree with Will. I was a huge, huge Bernstein fan all the way back from the days when he was with Doc, the fight doctor on ESPN back in the early 80s. Man, I've been listening to Bernstein for fucking Christ on 40 years. And to see him become the way he has, I agree with Will. Right, 100%. Degenerate, man. I see him all the time. He's either on over at Ring, and I see him on Twitter a lot. I like his content.
You know who he's turning into? You mentioned Dr. Ferdy Pacheco. He's turning into Ferdy Pacheco. Pacheco was a fucking grump. He was. He was always talking like he had a hair across his ass. He was always complaining about things. Oh man! One time I saw him on a Muhammad Ali documentary, and I don't know why they kept this in the documentary. I guess just to show what an ass he was. The guy asked Pacheco a question about Ali, like, "Hey, did Ali beat this guy or something?" Just a basic question, and Pacheco explodes. He says, "You're asking me that? You're doing a documentary on Ali, and you don't know the answer to that question." What are you doing? Where'd you get the cameras? It's like, what? The fucking guy's asking a question for the benefit of the audience. It's not a test. It's not a pop quiz. You're not the schoolmaster. So anyway, that's my gripe there with Freddie Pacheco. But he could be funny when he was grumpy too.
There was rumors of I don't know if it's true, but he was a drinker. I don't know, and some guy, drinkers can be, they can be snappy, especially if they're a few fingers deep. But yeah, he always had a fucking trigger temper. He would get in arguments with people and shit. In fact, he argued with Bill Bernstein a few times. But yeah, no, he was a loud, aggressive guinea.
I thought he was some sort of Cuban or something. Anyway, who cares, man? He's dead now.
Oh yeah, Vicente, that could be Italian. No, that actually could be Cuban.
Interesting. Well, may he rest in peace. Hopefully he's upstairs and not downstairs. Now, here's the other thing I wanted to mention about that. I believe Haymon, if he goes to any other platform, whatever, it's time for these platforms to put their foot down and say, you know what? You don't get to call the shots here, mister. What do you think about that? The Zone, ESPN, Fox Sports, that goes to all of them. Because neither of them are perfect. And I want to get to that later on when I talk about some of the matchups that are coming up. The fact that these networks have to really start saying, quality industry, whether you're making Twinkies, cupcakes, or whether you're putting on football, you gotta do some sort of quality control. And it seems like there's no quality control. I mean, you got matchmakers, sure, but in certain parts of the boxing world, it seems like they just, like I said, they just throw anything together. So here's my question to you, Jimmy. Gonzalo, too.
Mr. BDA, he had no one to answer to. Yes.
No, sorry, go ahead. There's a delay there.
No, I was going to say he had nobody to answer to. Yeah, I was going to say he had nobody to answer to, right? Mm-hmm. And when you have total say, you know what I mean? Like total say, and then not to have to answer to any press. Like when Bob does something that the fans don't agree with or there's grumbling, you got microphones in his face and he has to stand there and he's called to task for it. And it's uncomfortable. He's sure he gets asked questions, even, well, maybe if you paid him, Bob, remember with Coppinger, think about that, dude. Nobody's talking to fucking Al Haymon. No. I mean, you would have called the PBC like Dan Raphael, before he sold his soul and started lying for them, lying about pay-per-view numbers that he knows aren't true. That's the sick part. He knows these numbers aren't right, and he's doing it anyway. So I have no respect for that slob now. But back in the day when he was still at ESPN, he said, yes, I understand not dealing with media. A lot of executives don't do that, but they have a team of people who will answer for you, either through prepared statements or I'll get back to you type questions. Nothing. No fight. And then on top of that, it's whatever occasional press release that trickles out that they give you no explanation for why this person's fighting it that way, like you just said. Why they dragging this up? How come this fight's happening here? Like, how come he's taking a fighter from Texas and a fighter from fucking Southern California, having them fight in the Barclays Center? Like, when you answer to nobody and you have all that cash with no oversight, think about it. He had no oversight on that fucking money, and he just did what he wanted when he wanted, and did the same thing with his music industry. Never answered to anybody in that either. And look at the guys he worked with. For the most part, most of them filed bankruptcy, even the guys in the music industry. So, yeah. And he came over. He's not a boxing guy. And again, I'll stand on this with no proof. But when I take with this, you read what very little we know of him, what's been written about him or said about him by people who know him. And anybody who's talked about Al Haymon said he's extremely loyal to what small group of people he's close to, and he's extremely close to his family. Now, any interview I've ever read of anybody who's met him on that type of level and talked to him on that level, talk about his relationship with his mother and how close he is with his family. So for him to tell the HBO executive who, in that 2015 story, said he never got over boxing, talked about it all the time. Never got over what happened to his brother Bobby. Okay? So if you're talking about a guy who is that close with his family and feels this sport fucked his brother over, and if he thinks in his mind, I'm going to make some money off this fucker and just destroy HBO boxing, I believe where that fight was on, too, would makes it almost even better. Yeah, because he's probably got beat up pretty bad by Sugar Ray Leonard, too.
What was his name? What was his brother's
Haymon.
name?
But
by the way?
Bobby Haymon.
Bobby
Haymon was his older brother. Yes. And so I believe he never really liked the sport, and that's why he didn't care about trying to learn. He's not a boxing guy. That's been proven. I mean, just by the way he moves, like you said, how come there's no rematch? There's nobody to say no rematch. It's not like you get Lou DiBella steps out of line, and he represents Deontay Wilder. He knows what real money he's getting off the back end of the pay-per-view, and it's not what these people are saying he's getting. So when DAZN says $120 million 3-fight deal, he didn't say, yeah, no, forget about it, even though that's Finkel and Wilder and Haymon were playing games. Fucking Lou doing his job, working for his fighter, reaches out to DAZN. And because he did that and set up a meeting, he was fired. Just for setting up a meeting. Like, how you don't set up a meeting just for that. Imagine being on that phone call. Yeah, you set up that meeting with DAZN. Yeah, they were offering $120 million guaranteed. Did I say to do it? What? You're fired. But he never really fired anybody face to face. That's another thing I read about him. He always had his lawyer Mike Hill do it.
Well, I mean, listen,
you will know that, Jimmy. That you will know about Bobby Haymon. I didn't even know the guy existed. The brother, and he looks like him too.
Dude, I know all about Haymon, my brother. I knew about him before boxing because of his his reputation in the industry. Actually, the guy who taught him everybody can go look it up. It's called the Black Godfather. The guy he learned the business from. He just recently died. His wife was murdered recently in Hollywood at a home invasion. Yeah, this guy. He's like 90.
Jimmy,
he started that, he was the guy behind that, and I'm fading out.
No, keep going.
Oh no, so this guy, you can check it. It's on Netflix right now, The Black Godfather, and it shows a couple of pictures of Haymon in there. But I think Haymon dated his daughter for a while, but that's the guy he learned from. And this dude had a fearful reputation, even though he was a real, nice guy supposedly. But whatever. So
wait a minute. So
I've known all about Haymon for years.
So James
before
Brown
boxing,
was his
and
mentor?
I saw what he did to HBO. What's that, brother?
So James Brown was his mentor. I didn't know that. The Godfather, you said.
No, the Black Godfather. That's the name of the show. The Black Godfather.
Okay. Yes,
it's not James. Yeah, the name of the program is called The Black Godfather. I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he was like one of those dudes. He was like considered the most powerful black. And he really wasn't an agent. He was just one of those dudes you can make a phone call and make shit happen. And Haymon loved that because he was always behind the scenes, this dude. He was just a very powerful guy. Like when they did that special, I mean, almost every black athlete from LeBron James to every black entertainer, Harry Belafonte, everybody talked glowingly of this guy. And I never even really heard of him. So he was one of those behind the scene mover and shakers. And he owned a record label too. Anyway, so this is the guy who taught Haymon how to move and shake. Like you take nobody's scruff, you have a vision, you stick with it, you don't tell anybody what to do. So I think Haymon kind of copied him, mirrored this guy, and that's how he was going to work in boxing. And it was a disaster. I saw when it came to HBO. He's the one who fragmented boxing, this side of the street. Like back in the day when Showtime first came on, if Showtime they didn't have fighters, they just had they did boxing too. They didn't actually, that was kind of Espinosa's deal too when Haymon got his hooks into him. But yeah, tribalized the sport the way he did. That was Haymon. Us against them, against Showtime, and that and bad fights drove HBO boxing into the ground.
Hey, since
now he's over Showtime, he did the same thing.
Since I brought up the Godfather of Soul, here's one of the best clips I've ever heard.
Because I look good. I smell good. I feel good.
And you sing good.
And make love good.
Oh. Well, there we are. We don't have to ask anybody else. We got that from the source. There you are.
fuck? And by the way, since we're talking about Bobby, shout out to Bobby, what's his name? Bobby Haymon.
His name was Clarence Avante. Or Avant. Clarence Avant.
I actually found a compilation of all the times De Niro says Bobby in that movie The Fan. It only has 96,000 views. Well, that's a lot, but it should have more. Have millions. It should be in the millions. Bobby. But listen, hey, here's the thing. Here's the thing I always ask everybody. Do these network executives as a whole know anything about boxing? Because I remember, let me just preface this by saying this. There was it was in the 2000s. What's his name? Goldman. I forget his first name. He was a columnist for Ring Magazine. He claimed that he would be talking to people back when they were going to do the Contender on NBC. So this had to be 2004-ish, 2005. And De La Hoya beat them to the punch by making an inferior product on Fox, on the Fox network. And he says that he was talking to some of these executives, and they're like, he would introduce the idea, hey, what about boxing in network TV? He says, most of these guys, they don't know shit about boxing. And so I think that's why, if that's true, it goes to show you why Al Haymon was able to bamboozle so many people, because they don't know what the fuck's going on. Like I said, lack of quality control. Is that, do you think that's a realistic possibility there, or am I imagining things here?
Yeah, I mean, they're fucking Princeton kids. They're Stanford, these executives. They're not boxing people. They're not blue-collar dudes. You know what I mean? Boxing's a blue-collar sport. Usually you learn it from your parents or your father, who was a blue-collar guy. It's not a blue-blood sport, and that's where most TV executives come from. Ivy League schools and whatnot.
I guess consistency is the key. Anybody can put on a great fight, because in the end, you don't really know the outcome of a match. It could be good. You could hit or miss. But if you know what you're doing, you can deliver a consistent product. And I think that's the reason maybe Bob Arum has been around for so long, because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he sounds like a shrewd character. Probably very persuasive. I mean, that's the number one thing, right? When you're negotiating, it's persuasion. Can you persuade the other guy? Can you make an appealing offer or offer an appealing product and really convince people to go along with what you're doing? And he seems to have done that in the music industry and in boxing. But eventually your reputation can only carry you so far. And if his reputation stinks because he's not delivering ratings, like Jimmy said, why would anybody shell out more money, millions of dollars, to keep on this sinking company afloat? It would make no sense. It would be nonsensical. By the way, I'm going to be opening up the phone lines in case anybody wants to call in and give us their thoughts on this. Maybe, a couple of theories about what's going to happen, where this could go, what's going to happen to all these PBC fighters. Is this the end of Showtime boxing? Because, again, we don't know. This doesn't necessarily mean it's the end. In the meantime, I also have a couple of other subjects that we could talk about. But what else? What else can we say about that? The PBC thing is, it seems to be disintegrating. Well, now that Showtime is going to be merging with Paramount Plus. I mean, I think what other sports does Paramount Plus offer? Any type of sports? Does anybody know?
Well, football. They did that football program, Inside Access, and they did the training camp one where they feel like spent 8 weeks in that was always a big deal on their network.
But I guess my question then is,
but they don't.
That's
something else.
That's what I was going to ask. Live sports. Do they have? Because that's the other thing. Somebody mentioned that too in the chat.
Bellator.
What's going to happen? Was that?
Bellator sports.
Yeah, but that's
just happened.
Right?
And remember a month ago when I said, "Hey, did you guys see that Bellator is just sudden?" It was right before New Year's. They did, and they said, "Hey, check us out. We're moving. Our first big episode on CBS." And I remember thinking, okay, that's huge. And I know nobody else believed it at the time when I said that was huge, because think about it. CBS is a part of Viacom, which is a part of Paramount Global. So they signed a deal with Showtime. Why would they suddenly go to their TV affiliate unless they were told, hey, listen, we're getting rid of Showtime. I know you signed a deal with us. They maybe even gave them some money. I don't know. But so, because they said, hey, we're doing this big fight. In fact, isn't it this Saturday? I think it's Saturday on CBS. So that should have been telling right there when they announced that. because they just made a big deal of signing with Showtime last year. And here they are going into 2023. Their big announcement is we're going to be on CBS. So there's a lot of writing on the wall. We just didn't really,
So they would be moving to CBS. So they would be moving to CBS, but not staying on the Paramount Plus app necessarily. Because from what I understand,
exactly.
Okay. Because from what I understand, there would be certain things that would be, exclusive to the app, but then be on the CBS network, which again is separate from Showtime, but just under the same umbrella. But by the way, I'm curious, who didn't believe you that Bellator moving to CBS was a good move? Don't tell me there were people on Twitter telling you to shut the fuck up.
Well, yeah, no, just a couple of people, but I saw people going around with it, like, oh, you're reading too into your conspiracy theory, blah, blah, blah. You hate black people, that type of thing. Usually anytime I say anything negative about Haymon,
listen,
it's like, well, you can't see what he's doing to the sport, whatever.
Yeah, they're only partly right when they say you hate black people. But listen, at the end of the day, this isn't not anything new. This whole thing about Paramount Plus, we were talking about this for months. Well, maybe not months, I'm exaggerating, but weeks. So people can say that it's racism, anti-Semitism, homophobia, whatever they want to throw at it. The facts don't lie. Things are starting to shape up the way Jimmy said. So I don't think people can throw those type of aspersions, especially not in this, which is wholly neutral ground. All right, fellas? So that type of language over there, no, it's a big no-no here. It's a big bozo no-no. I just want to let you know, guys, that I have opened up the phone lines. So in case you want to call in about this subject, Paramount Plus now mixing in their merging with Showtime, the app, and no mention of boxing. Again, there's going to be some sort of a big hoopla on the 20th something of February. Maybe they'll announce that they're going to keep boxing in some
call in. Tell us what you think, guys. I'm curious to hear what the masses think.
There you go. I'm curious as well. In the meantime...
And Gonzalo, what do you think, brother? I'm sorry, because I fucking cornered the whole thing. I was rambling on. But Gonzalo, I just want to hear real quick. What do you think about this?
No, I've been listening, but I don't know really. I'm just interested in what you said, and let's see what happens. Maybe they'll put on a good farewell card.
Well, you always said that wasn't your interest. Like, Gonzalo, you're all about the technical side of the fighting and the fight. That's your thing in the fighters. Like you said, the politics of all this really never fascinated you. You just cared about the fights, which I don't blame you.
No, I'm listening. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, but Gonzalo, you don't care whether it's Showtime, The Zone. You're not nostalgic about, Showtime getting out. For you, as long as somebody's showing boxing, you're happy, right?
Yeah, I guess so. If we can watch, ideally, a card every weekend, that'd be like fucking awesome.
Exactly, yeah. Why not, man? A good fight every week, that would be a fight fan's dream. Because, like, for example, this week we got ESPN, we've got Friday. We have Navarrete returning against a sub-opponent that's subbing, obviously, for Valdez. And it's a guy that, you expect Navarrete to just walk through him. So how excited can you get over a one-sided match? Of course, I am a Navarrete fan because at least he knocks motherfuckers out. But, if we had a good fucking card every week. Excuse me?
What is he fighting on? What is he fighting on?
ESPN or ESPN Plus, one of those. Let me check.
Oh, so it's ESPN. So he's still fighting with Bob, but he must be doing like a one-fight deal or re-signed with them. I'm curious.
Well, he was going to do the Valdez fight. Valdez is a top-ranked. I think he's still with Top Rank, by the way. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But speaking of Top Rank, as we all know, Berlanga, and again, I want to tie this a little bit to the PBC thing, Showtime, Paramount Plus thing. Berlanga just cut ties with Bob Arum. But it's interesting because he had this to say about the split. Top Rank was trying to slow me down, Berlanga said. I just want to continue to grow as a fighter. I feel that I'm not a co-main event fighter. Listen to that. I feel that I'm not a co-main event fighter. So he wants to be a main event fighter. Even though he's got under 20 fights under his record and hasn't really fought anybody. I sold out the Hulu Theater in New York, he said. Ooh, big time. I did amazing numbers from the top level position, not even being at my full potential because of my torn biceps injury from last year, and me coming back so soon and fighting these bigger fights as the main event under the bright lights. Okay, so notice what he just said there. He's blaming the injuries for looking subpar against guys like Rolls Royce, I believe, and Angulo. But then in the same token, he wants to have the biggest fights possible, and he's going to reiterate that later on. So, but my thing is this. he's blaming his injuries. If you're injured and you're looking that subpar when you're supposed to be this monster, then you shouldn't be main event material, and you shouldn't be asking for the type of fights that I'm going to tell you later on he's asking for. But before we get to the next paragraph, yeah, Jimmy, go ahead, or Gonzalo as well.
Yeah, he's a fucking clown. I really, all I got to say, I got no respect for that kid. He said stupid shit when he only had like 9 fights. Remember? He was calling himself already like the greatest of all time in that weight class. Fell in love with his power. He got exposed. But he turned down fight after fight after fight. He wouldn't do anything. Bob couldn't wait to get rid of him because he knew the kid got found out. Now he's trying to save face. You watch. He'll never fight. He's the next the middleweight kid who never fights anybody.
Munguia.
Munguia. He's the next Munguia. That's all. He'll just go year after year and fight fucking bums.
I mean, that could be a certain real possibility. Gonzalo, what do you think about this guy? 25 years old, under 20 fights, and the reason why he split one of the best promotional entities out there is because he won the bigger fights.
Yeah. I mean, I think probably like Bob Arum or Todd DeBuff, I believe that's his name, they know more about this guy because I think he's been knocked out in sparring before. If it were just a case where, okay, he's had some tough fights, but they know that, okay, yeah, he can bounce back, he's gaining experience, he's pretty good. A fight on TV where you get dropped, but then you come back to win, I guess it's kind of exciting. But something they saw or they heard, like the stories are out there, like within this camp, the trainers and the crosstalk between them and the Top DeBuff and fucking Mr. Rob Arum, they probably know he's a can because he's been hurt. He's probably got a shaky chin. So they know that in the long run he's going to end up getting knocked out anyhow. It's not like, you know, Miguel Cotto. What's that again? Trainers, I believe so.
Yeah, didn't he change it? That's what I thought. Okay. Go on, brother. I was just asking.
Yeah, I think he was with the Deveryachenko trainer, the guy from, I believe he's Panamanian. He used to be a tailor before, a seamstress. He's the one that used to work with Daniel Jacobs as well. The thing with him, he's not like, you know, Miguel Cotto, who, like, when he was coming up, he got rocked and hurt by, not Kelson Pinto, I forget the name, but then, you know, he survived in shaky moments to win the fight, and then later he just, like, became real good and never really actually got stopped. You know, this guy, he's been hurt, he's won the fights in the ring, but there must be a backstory that people know, okay, this guy's got a shaky chin, that he's going to eventually end up getting stopped. So I think that's the case.
That's a good point there, Gonzalo. But I mean, there were already rumors about them not liking Berlanga, not taking boxing seriously. In other words, let me reiterate. Apparently, Top Rank wasn't happy with the way Berlanga was handling his boxing career and his training camps. So that you know, the writing was on the wall a little bit beforehand. Let me just continue on here with this interview here. I mean, this article. Here's the other thing Berlanga said. Hold on a second. He said, I tip my hat to them. In other words, Top Rank. It's business at the end of the day. You move on. I didn't get dropped. We just parted ways. Okay, so he's trying not to burn the bridge there. Then he says, right now for me, it's about legacy and also money. Money. You mix everything in. I don't duck no smoke. I come from the trenches. I'm from the projects. I'm a kid that came from the mud. I'm not ducking anybody. If we have to fight, we have to fight. So a lot of filler right there, as you can see. And it's a cappella, by the way, no beat. But then he says, at the end of the day, it got to make sense. He says, we wanted a much bigger fight. I wanted to fight somebody that was way above Jesse Hart's level. So think about this, fellas. Apparently, he was offered a Jesse Hart fight, and he didn't like it. Hart's pretty good, though. He went 24 rounds with Jose Ramirez. Excuse me.
Hart would probably beat him.
Excuse me?
Hart would probably beat him.
I mean, listen, the guy went 24 with Zurdo Ramirez, gave him a very, very tough fight. And then he went 12 rounds with Joe Smith Jr., also gave him a good fight. Meanwhile, fucking Jesse Hart, Berlanga is not looking great against the guys they're putting him in. Why not? Why would he shoo a Jesse Hart fight? So, like, shouldn't he, like Gonzalo said, shouldn't he let one of the best promotional companies out there who have guided talent such as Cotto, De La Hoya, Mayweather, currently Keyshawn Davis and other fighters, shouldn't he let them take the reins and say, okay?
Of course. Mr. BDA, this is I'll tell you exactly what's going on. Verbatim, I'm telling you right now. Mm-hmm. They know what they have, okay? If he was to go out and fight Jesse Hart for $375,000 and lose, he's done. He's just done. He's never going to get big fights. He's never going to make big money. So what they got now, they got a kid with just big enough of a name that people know of him. He's going to do tiptoe to the tulips, beating up cans, trying to get himself into a position of a big fight, and it's going to be a cash out. It'll be like a la Wilder, fight nobody's bums, and then make a cherry pick on wrong type of deal. And that's what they're going to do. They know it's a cash out fight. The first talent they fight, it's a cash out fight. So they're going to try to hold on and keep him relevant and name drop and glory snatch as long as they can till they can get at least the biggest slice of pie. And then he will fade away.
Speaking of snatch, if he signs with the lawyer, glory snatch, there's going to be a lot of glory holes in the equation, I believe. Oh, I'm on fire here. Listen, let's continue on with the article here because there's a lot of things to get through. He says, then he said this. Hold on, let me put the caption here so people know what we're talking about. Berlanga cutting ties with Top Rank, and he's starting to spill the beans about why he did it. A guy like John Ryder, he says, he wanted to fight. He had London, I had Puerto Rico. He's in a position where he could fight Canelo, and if I beat him, it could potentially lead to a Canelo fight as well. I have a whole country behind me. I'm looking at it like a businessman. Fucking Donald Trump over here. Just like Canelo, Floyd Mayweather, and Oscar De La Hoya, you look for the big fights and make that money. Again with the money. So, but it's interesting though because he says he wanted the John Ryder fight, blah blah blah. Listen, again, he poo-pooed on the Jesse Hart fight. This is the same guy that couldn't hurt or stop Steve Rolls or Romer Angulo, whatever his name was, a Colombian dude. But he wants to jump in there against Canelo and all those guys? Because that's essentially what he's saying. Like, that the path to Canelo would have been through John Ryder. I want the Canelo fight sooner rather than later. You can't even look good against Steve
much
Rolls.
Is that?
But hold on. Golovkin beat the shit out of Rolls Royce. Out cold. Benavidez beat the crap out of Angulo. This guy goes the distance with them. I mean, I know I don't want to play triangle theory, but shouldn't that tell him, listen, back up a little bit. You're still in development.
Billy Joe Saunders knocked out Mario Coceres, I believe that's his name, the Argentinian.
Another one.
He went the distance with that guy.
That's a great point. So here's the interesting thing about that. You look at Berlanga, the guy's 25 years old, and he's got under 20 fights under his belt, all right? So I had to go check the Champignon.com, and it says this. He fought twice in 2021 and twice in 2022. Last time he fought was in June 2022. So he's been out for more than 6 years, half a year. I don't know. I think he was injured or something from what I understand, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe it's because of the promotional issues with Top Rank. That's why he hasn't fought. But you're under.
Well,
you got under 20.
The bicep injury. Martin Coceres, yeah. The bicep injury, I believe.
But that was after the Angulo fight then.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm asking. Does anyone know?
After the Angulo fight, I can't recall.
Okay, so why hasn't he fought since June 2022? I mean, again, this is a guy that's 25 years old. He barely has 20 fights on his record. And he's already talking about, I want to jump in there against this guy, Canelo, John Ryder. He can't even visibly hurt Steve Rolls, who got iced by an older Golovkin. Benavidez goes in there, boom, beats the crap out of Angulo, stops him. This guy goes the distance with him. I mean, come on, there's levels to this. He's showing his levels, and he wants all. And here's what I don't like: the money. I'm a big star.
That's what he's just focusing on that. Sorry, Gonzalo, go.
I was gonna say, if he's still developing, man, the signs are out there that he's in trouble based on his fighting style. Like, for example, he's not that fast. So at 175, he's just a kid. He's like 20 years older. I don't know, 21, 22. I don't know. But he's not that fast. At 75, he's at 68 now. At 75, he's just going to get slower. His stamina's not good. You think his stamina will improve when he gains more weight? His chin is not that, it's kind of shaky because he's been dropped in sparring. At 75, there's harder punchers. So with those three things that I mentioned, not so great of a gas tank, the power that he has now, He's got to carry that up. And what's the other one that I mentioned? He's not that fast. He's probably only gets slower because he's carrying more weight. Doesn't translate well for him. So yeah, he might be developing, but the competition is only going to get stronger.
Yeah, but at 25 years old, isn't he 25 years old?
Maybe 25. I don't know.
25.
But if he's 25, when did he start fighting? Did he pick it up late in life? He must have if he's still developing.
Yeah, that changes it up a little bit. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, that's even worse. So that's worse. Yeah, he's 25.
Right? I mean, but I can see 20, 21 if you come to the game late, you're still, getting your shit together. But 25, man, damn. Yeah, no, listen, he wasn't fighting anybody. And I like how I left Top Ranks. They allowed that so he didn't leave any money on the table. Like, didn't have to cut him loose. What they did was just probably offered him a fraction of his original contract. You know what I mean? And of course he wasn't going to take it. So you can be fired without being fired when they offer you a contract or, like having no guarantee money to it. Crawford's going to walk away the same way Bob knew Berlanga was going to walk away with what they offered him.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's probably how they did. They're very shrewd. But here's the other thing I wanted to mention about that is you mentioned the activity. He turned pro in 2016, by the way, just for reference purposes. But there was an article there on Boxing 24, which was talking about the Paramount Plus Showtime thing. And they mentioned one of the reasons why the boxing's dying. They talk about mismatches, promoters. But one thing they didn't mention amongst that plethora of reasons of why boxing could, what's impeding boxing from improving, inactivity. And again, I got to reiterate, you look at Berlanga, 2 fights in 2021, 2 fights in 2022, and he hasn't fought since June. So what the heck is going on? So you want these guys to be good, you want these guys to be stars, you want these guys to be the best, they got to fight often. But inactivity is one of the big problems that people aren't talking about. They're talking about mismatches, pay-per-view prices being overboard, blah, blah, blah. Too many fights on pay-per-view. Inactivity. We gotta reiterate that day in and day out here because some people just don't, it doesn't compute, I think. Here's the other thing I don't.
Ring rust.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I want to bring up a picture here that I think is gonna, because again, it's just an observation about Edgar Berlanga. Okay? This guy is huge. All right, first of all, that's not what I wanted to show you. That's Pigeon right there, enjoying a night out. Look at that. What the heck is he doing? All right. I wanted to show you guys this. Look at De La Hoya is, I think, 5'10", maybe 5'10 and a half. I know they used to have what's his name? Trinidad 5'11". I don't know if they're lying. They take away an inch, add an inch, whatever. Berlanga looks...
Yeah, well, he's probably shrinking too, BDA, because he's 47, 48, De La Hoya. You get shorter as you grow older.
True. Hey, by the way, does cocaine shorten you too? Or?
That's true.
Does cocaine shorten you as well, or?
I was just going to say that, you bastard. You stole my thunder. I was going to say, yeah, but I think cocaine shrinks the bones.
Oh, okay.
Well, does Brooke look any shorter? I'll tell you, he took that line down like a pro. I finally saw the tape of Brooke.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't his first time fucking doing a gagger.
Yeah, no wonder he gets tired. He's built like a football player.
And
like
by the way,
wrestler.
Screw that the guy that was filming that from Brooke, man. Why would a friend or whoever released that video? I mean, that's a big no-no right there, man. What happens behind closed doors with a little powder stays behind the closed doors with a little powder. But I wanted to mention this about Berlanga. Was that? Go ahead.
No, shocking to me. That it wasn't shocking. Again, Haymonites, he put it out the best. He said that was about a boxer doing cocaine is about as shocking as a factually incorrect Artman tweet. Oh. But he said, because it is. I mean, fucking cocaine and boxing. Jesus Christ, fucking Hector Camacho. The night before his biggest fight on television at the time, they couldn't even find him. He was out all night fucking, he said he did about a half an ounce. So cocaine and boxing goes hand in hand, but yeah, it's not surprising. What's surprising is he's surrounding himself with, you're doing fucking blow with dudes you can't even trust, bro. Like, makes me question. It's just like, who are you, dude? How could you be that stupid? Obviously, was it a hidden camera? The dude was holding a cell phone out, pointing at you, probably like, here you go, champ. Suck that sucker up, filming. Why would he have said, dude, what the fuck you filming me for? I would have grabbed that phone and smashed that shit. But he thought he would do whoever was doing. No, it was probably the motherfucker who brought the cocaine.
Yeah. Or maybe he didn't get enough. It's like in Boogie Nights. Remember? Now, hey, listen, Kyle, he's got the big pile. I got the smaller pile. He bought it. He's got the bigger pile. They're arguing about who's got the bigger pile.
Yeah.
But look, it's interesting though. Listen, it's you mentioned cocaine and boxing goes hand in hand. It's true, man. Especially after a fighter retires. Once these guys retire, especially professional boxers who fought at the highest level possible, it's hard to get that dopamine level up, or not dopamine, but that high. So what do they do?
No, that's right. Dopamine. The dopamine. That's correct. Your serotonin levels. You don't get the high of walking into a ring. Fucking. I couldn't even imagine what it's like. I mean, when I fought, it was the most I think was ever there was 1,200 people at the auditorium. Because I was from Lowell, that was pretty crazy having everybody cheer for you. I couldn't imagine having 10,000, 20,000 people cheering for you in a fight. Talk about that's like just the high of that alone, and then winning, standing on the ropes, everybody cheering you, dude. You don't get that high again. They're always searching for it. Mm-hmm. They're always searching for that high.
Exactly, man. And imagine that, man. Imagine that's the best thing you know how to do in life. And all of a sudden you can't, like, imagine a piano player being told, hey, at 40, you got to retire from piano playing. No more piano playing for you. It's like, what the fuck? That's the reality of physical sports, physical activities is if you want to be the best at something, you got a short window. And that's why these fighters, hey, Berlanga, hope you're listening. They got a, well, actually, Berlanga, he wants the big fights. Actually, that doesn't apply here with Berlanga because he wants to be fast-tracked to a fight as opposed to being held back a little bit. But for most time, all these fighters, I want to fight once a year. I don't like training. Listen, you're going to miss training. You're going to miss those fights. So now that while you're young, step it up. And then once you're in your 40s, then you can party like you're Kell Brook. But you better take boxing seriously now, pronto. Ahorita. Now, okay, so I wanted to, just last thing about this fight. Berlanga's a pretty big dude though. Compared to De La Hoya. Again, De La Hoya is 5'10". This guy's got to be 6 feet tall. You can see he's big boned. The power is real. Don't get me wrong on that, but he needs to get it. Like, who would be a good trainer for Berlanga, guys? I'm talking somebody that, because he's with Derrick James, right? No, not Derrick James now. He's with the New York guy. What's his name? The guy that trained Jake Rozier. Yeah, is he with Rozier?
Yep. The bald guy?
The bald guy, yeah. He kind of looks like the Spence
Rozier.
trainer, but
yeah, it's Rozier.
He looks like a peanut. But yeah, shouldn't he maybe try to, again, I'm usually not one of those guys that goes, oh yeah, he's switched trainers. But it's been a couple of fights now where he's looked bad, subpar.
Yeah, I don't think, Rozier isn't a taskmaster. That's not the type of trainer he needs personally. I think he needs a taskmaster, someone who holds his feet to the fire. Like you be at the, like Rozier, I don't believe is the type of dude who's going to be at the gym if he doesn't have to be. He doesn't hang around. Like you want somebody who's like lives the sport. He's going to make you be there, treat you no different than anybody else. You know what I mean?
What did you call it? A taskmaster?
Yeah, like someone fucking holds you to it. Make sure if you're not running, fuck it, you're gone. I'm not going to deal with you, dude. Mm-hmm. Then there's other guys. I think Rozier strikes me as the type, hey, I'm going to get fucking my 15%.
I don't know, the way you say taskmaster, it sounds like something that somebody would do with a mask on, like a leather mask, maybe a whip in a basement somewhere. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's true, man. Gonzalo, what do you think, man? Do you think maybe a more offensive-minded trainer could get him on point?
Maybe like Goosen, Joe Goosen, I believe that's his name, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Jacob split with Rozier over money. So yeah, the dude might be a little bit just too focused on his 15% instead of what new he can teach him. Yeah, some trainers. I mean, this guy, what was he? He was a tailor, like I mentioned earlier. That was his job. It's like Abel Sanchez. He really was like a construction not worker, but manager. What do you call those? The job, the one that oversees the sites.
The foreman.
Yeah, but No, the inspector maybe, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so, but it doesn't mean that Abel Sanchez didn't know the sport or that he had a love for it. Same thing for Rozier. But at a certain point, you need something else. I guess it depends upon, because chemistry also matters. Like Freddie Roach, we know he's like a disabled guy. He's got Parkinson's. He used to be a boxer, but if the chemistry is very important, and if it's not there, there's a bunch of elements or a couple of elements, that go together. And if it's not jiving well with Rozier because he's losing, or he's not lost yet, but he's in tough fights that he's not actually like developing, give it a try. Change over to somebody else. I believe Oscar De La Hoya had like 6 trainers.
Yeah, man, he was changing trainers like he changed underwear. But I mean, listen, at this stage in Berlanga's career, he needs to stay active more than anything. Fuck the big fights right now. Have a couple of more developmental fights and see what's up. And I'm a patient man. I'm not gonna throw him under the bus yet and say, oh, he's finished, he's mediocre. But it seems like he's not all there. Focused, talking about the money. The money. If the money's there, right now you should be focusing on getting better, not so much the money. I mean, is he cutting coupons and cutting the costs because he's not making enough money? If not, you should take it easy. Again, when a young fighter starts talking this much about money, you gotta wonder if it's because he's going out. Maybe the girlfriend's always wanting him to take her out to dinner. Let's go here, let's go there. Yeah, that piles up, man. Especially if he's living in New York. Bunch of good restaurants in New York. So a night out over there, I mean, you could spend a lot every week if you go out every day. So I don't know. I'm speculating here, but he's got to step it up. That's for sure. Shout out to Virtuoso for his contribution to the super chat. He says you can have the ghost of Ray Arcel, Coach Berlanga. He won't learn shit and dedicate himself. Now, do you mean he won't learn shit or dedicate himself, or? Yeah, I think probably that's what he means. Yeah, Virtuoso, you're right though. Yeah, sometimes you get a good trainer, the best trainer possible, cream of the crop, and not much is going to happen. So we'll see what happens with Berlanga. That's all we can do. Step back and wait.
Yeah, maybe he should go with Teofimo Lopez Sr.
Gonzalo, I'm going to kick you off the panel, man. What the fuck is the matter with you? We're trying to help the guy out, not ruin his career, man. Come on now. By the way, I think I saw a recent video on Twitter where now he's saying we want Prograis. That's the fight we want. It's like, you just said a couple of days ago that there's no money. So I don't know what's going on with the guy. You know what? Just like the lawyer used to change trainers every week, this guy changes his opinion every week. You can't fucking understand what the hell he's saying. And by the way, the phone lines are open, fellas, in case anybody wants to call in. So, by the way, we got a phone call. Speak of the devil. Let's go to a phone call here. Nice little phone call, evening phone call. 470, you're on the air. 470, what's on your mind?
What up, y'all can hear me straight?
Yeah, we can hear you straight, man. What's up?
All right, this is Never Sober from the Discord.
Oh.
So I guess Showtime is going to be closing up its boxing doors real soon, and TBC is going to be scattered into the wind. And Andrade's next big fight is going to be on Street Beefs, and we might see Guillermo Rigondeaux fighting in the bare knuckle boxing league. So
yeah, the fucking border wars.
We're going to say fucking Spence is going to try to challenge Jake Paul or something on his own. All kinds of wild stuff is going to happen, right? I think this is that paradigm shift that Shadowban has been talking about, bro.
Huh. Hey, that could be, man. You're right. There is he prophesized a paradigm shift with the equinox coming and all that, the spring equinox. You could be right, Never Sobers. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I just want to call and say that. I just want to say, hey, I guess Shadowban wasn't always lying, like I always accused him.
Well, nobody said he's lying. No, nobody said he's lying. Some people just say that he's fucking insane, but they're not saying he's lying.
No, I was saying I was.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see what happens, man. Like I said, we could be good for boxing to finally have these PBC guys go to another network and not have so many obstacles up. Never Sobers, you were kind of giddy at the fact that Showtime might be out of the boxing business, but do you care either way who televises these fights, or do you just go, hey, as long as there's fights on something, I'm cool?
I think that Showtime it's a bit antiquated, to be honest. I think HBO was really good too, but it was a bit antiquated as well, and that's why it kind of just dissolved. So Showtime was better. So I mean, the HBO boxing, in my opinion, was better. So when that went, Showtime could have went as far as I cared, as much as I cared, you know. And I think it's better if Showtime gets out of it. I think that'll have only because it'll have a negative effect on the PBC. We need that monopoly shit, whatever Al Haymon got going on. We need him out of it, bro. So these dudes can go around and they can start being hungry, being thirsty for money, and start 10 fights and making fuss, you know. And I'm sure guys like Bob Arum, De La Hoya, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, everyone else will love to make the fights and make the money. You know.
That's right.
Maybe not always sharing, but this dude doesn't want to work with nobody, right? So that's what I'm more giddy for, to be for that and have an effect on that, you know.
You're absolutely right there, Never Sobers. Well, listen, we got to move on. But thank you for your call and enjoy the rest of your evening, all right, man?
All right, bro. Take
it easy, man. And don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And don't forget the phone lines are open. The phone number is right there in the middle left-hand portion of your screen. I gotta, okay. Before we move on to the next subject, I just checked Twitter. Somebody, Mighty Max, shout out to Mighty Max, he posts this hypothetical, fantasy matchups. Today he asked who wins, Duran versus Gervonta Davis, Prime versus Prime. I can't believe this would be true. Not what Minimax posted, but what this Caleb Truax. See, people always say, "Oh, a professional fighter picked this guy," or a professional fighter said fighter A is better than fighter B because he fought fighter A, so that means he's good. That means just because you're a professional boxer doesn't mean you're a good boxing analyst. Because check this out, Caleb Truax replied to Mighty Max's question. He said Duran has 16 losses with a 58% KO rate. Davis is undefeated with a 93% KO rate. Tank by knockout. I don't follow Caleb Truax on Twitter. I mean, I don't even go on Twitter that much, so I don't know what type of, if he has a sense of humor, which is ironic, sarcastic, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if he's being sarcastic here. Do you think Caleb Truax, if he's being serious, do you think he got hit in the head a little bit too much, or what's going on here?
Yeah, sounds like a casual, man.
Yeah, whoever's in charge of fucking doling out his medication needs to check to see if it needs to be adjusted, because he's a fucking moron. Absolute moron.
No.
He's just selling the fucking, he was a Haymon guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was, but I mean, then he said he had this to say. He said, "I'm upset." J-Rock replied, "I'm upset at you for this nonsense." And then he says, reeling him in, bruh. Come on, you're not 25. And then Stephen Edwards said, "Damn, bro, you really posted KO percentage and losses without context." And he says, "I know I didn't hook Breadman too." Okay, so he was kidding. He hooked us. He got us hooked. He could not be serious.
Yeah, because Roberto Duran, he did have that, how they say, he had that dog in him. He did have that dog in him.
Oh, come on. You're going to go with the dog thing.
Okay.
Yeah, he was kidding. Just for the record, he was kidding. But thank God. Well, moving on from that, this is something that really gets my ire a little bit.
Hey, BDA, one last, that dude must have like a real dry sense of humor, huh? He must hit them jokes and people are like, what the fuck is this guy? Is he serious?
I mean, he got me, man, that's for sure. But what was I going to say? Yeah, but that's why I kept asking, he can't be serious, because you can't be a professional boxer and believe that. But hey, speaking of professional boxers, this is what's going on here with the Beterbiev-Bivol situation, which is a fight that a lot of us, I think I dare say everybody in boxing wants to see. But there's a couple of obstacles here. Eddie Hearn says he wants Bivol-Buatsi first. And then Canelo came out, and apparently, or Eddie Hearn came out and said that Canelo is really sticking to the September Bivol date. Okay? And then they're talking about Beterbiev versus Callum Smith next, and then you've got the WBC president shutting down Beterbiev versus Bivol because Bivol is from Russia, and so he doesn't. The WBC's got some sort of embargo on Russia, which is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, if I've ever heard one. Fellas, what's going on here? Hey, by the way, can I say something though? If nobody's gonna go, this is the classic example where if Beterbiev were to dump the WBC belt, nobody would care, as long as he fights Bivol. I mean, think about it. If he fights Bivol, are you going to be disappointed? But it's that WBC belt's not in the equation.
Suleiman is getting a little too involved in the politics, not of boxing, but of the world. He's mixing that up too much with the boxing, man.
I couldn't hear you, Mr. BDA. You were checking out for a while. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
I said, isn't this the perfect scenario where the Beterbiev should dump the WBC belt? Because, I mean, my question was, are you going to be disappointed if he drops the WBC belt and then fights Bivol? Are you going to be saying, man, this fight would be much better if the WBC belt was on the line?
Oh, no. Fuck the WBC.
Exactly.
Fuck them. I have no respect for that shit. But look what they've lost any credibility with what they just pulled with allowing Spence to say that's his mandatory. Well, they haven't officially said it, but allowing him to take care of his 147 mandatory, basically allowing him to hold on to his belts while leaving 147, going up to 154. Because this isn't a one-off. It's going up to 154, but he just doesn't want to give up his belts. He wants to get him in place where, because if he gave him up right now, next time Crawford fights at 147, obviously being number one ranked, he's going to snatch him. You know what I mean? The vacant belts. So that's literally what they're doing. They're trying to make sure the PBC guys get it, although they don't have a network, it looks like. Ha ha.
Oh, come on.
In regards to Bivol, I think Bivol's the one. I've read a few posts that he's the one that's really interested in the belts. He said, I'll fight anybody that got a belt that I'm close to that weight division. He'll even drop to 68. And obviously he wants a Beterbiev to become undisputed at 75 because he's chasing legacy. So for some reason, to Bivol, belts mean a lot.
Exactly. That's a good point. It's a good point. But at the end of the day, he would still be fighting the best guy. So in other words, this is a classic case where these guys should dump the belt, or one of them should dump at least one belt if it's interfering with making the fight. Because whether it's the WBC is on the line, the IBO, the IBU, the WBF, or whatever the other adjacent organizations, we don't give a shit. We already know these guys are the best. Make the fight happen. Now, on the other side of that, though, I wouldn't mind. What's that?
I was just going to say the WBC comes across like they're the most prestigious organization right now. And I don't know if a lot of people buy that because it's kind of like you speak it and people believe it. And then he's got all these belts that he shells out that gives him a little bit of a, like, you know, look at my cool little belts. And people think that the WBC is the most prestigious.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I've heard people say, well, the WBC is the most prestigious, and then you ask them why. And they just go, well, I just like their rankings better. It's like, yeah, well, what does that mean? I like, I don't know. People don't elaborate. But this is the classic case where they're interfering with a fight. Now, would I be distraught if that fight doesn't happen next? No, because I already put it in my mind that this fight probably wasn't going to happen. There's just too many things. You know, Iram doesn't want it on the zone. The people from the zone, or actually Bivol's manager or promoter, whatever, he wants some of the zone to be somewhat involved or something. So there's just too many things involved, and it's unfortunately you sort of relegate yourself in boxing to, we're probably not going to get it right away. So would you guys be okay with Bivol Boazzi and Beterbiev Callum Smith for the moment?
Yeah, I think so. Refresh my memory. I know somebody. Who did Boazzi fight last?
Craig Richards, I believe.
Craig Richards. Yeah, Craig Richards, pretty good fighter, and Boazzi won, right?
That's right. Yeah, but he had a bit of a tough time.
By decision.
Had a bit of a tough time.
Yeah, so I remember he punches pretty hard. Boazzi. It was a good fight. Yeah, it's a good opponent. I mean, Jesus, Bivol didn't look that great against Craig Richards. I think that's been his toughest opponent.
Yeah, man, maybe the length and reach, it's really going to give Bivol something to work with. It would be a good challenge. I dare say it could be a better challenge than fucking Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. I know some people are going to hate me for that, but I mean, that's the way it could be. And Callum Smith, Beterbiev, though, interesting fight because Callum Smith now is showing a little bit more snap on his shots at 175. But he's a sloth in there. Remember, you ever see those sloths, the way they move, their long ass arms, but they're slow? That's what Callum Smith looks like to me. He doesn't have those fast twitch muscles. And okay, he's been knocking people out recently. Are we expecting him to knock out Beterbiev here after he just went into a battle with Anthony Yarde? I don't know. It's different type of power. You never know. Maybe he could give I wouldn't expect it to be easy, but at the same time, I wouldn't be there rubbing my hands devilishly and thinking, oh, this is going to be a great fight, because I'd rather see the Bivol fight. But again, these are the type of things as boxing fans we got to deal with. The great fight is right there. It's never going to get any better. It's only going to get worse as time goes by, because Beteru is an old man. And yet, here we are. So yeah, the WBC president shutting down that fight. Eddie Hearn, he wants Bivol Buatsi and Beteru with Callum Smith. And then you get the networks. So we will see what happens. Interesting little development here. Just it's a fight that I'm interested in looking at. I think it's coming up in February. Jared Hurd is returning. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, well, come, BDA, why are you bringing up Jared Hurd? Because I still remember like it was yesterday when this guy had a huge size advantage at 154, running through people, beating them up on the inside. Willie Nelson, Tony Harrison, Austin Trout. He stopped Austin Trout. And then he went to war with Lara and dropped him in the last round. And that was a fight that I didn't know who to root for. Either root for the underdog in Lara against the big bully in Hurd, or root against Lara, who always shits the bed and makes boring fights. So it was a little bit, in a way, it was kind of good to see Lara being beat up there in the last round. But then Jared Hurd, here's what happens. Okay, you can take flush shots in the face, but it's gonna catch up to you, especially when your head gets snapped back and forth. And so what happened? He had some subpar performances. He lost to Julian Williams. He had some subpar performances after that. And then he lost to Luis Arias. I think it's going to be 2 years now that he lost 2 years ago. And now he's coming back and he says he wants to dominate the new division like he did at 154. Here's the problem. He's going to be fighting a guy named Armando Resendiz from Mexico. Now, let me show you his box rig, because there's not that much film available on YouTube from Armando here, Resendiz. But what you can find, he fought at the PBC, I believe, last year. And this guy looks like he could be a problem. He's a pressure fighter. He's built stocky. He's kind of short for the division. Well, they don't have it here on box rig, but 5'10". Whereas I think Jared Hurd, they have him as 5'11". He looks like he's 6'1", 6'2". But this guy, he's got 13 wins, 9 knockouts. He can crack. He's only 23. So we know what happens with guys like from Mexico like that. Like, for example, Mauricio Lara. They've got a whole bunch of fights in Mexico. They haven't fought anybody, but they match them tough over there with tough pugs who have crap records, but they're tough. And at 23 years old, I mean, I don't know. Watch the guy fight. He could put the final nail on Jared Hurd's coffin. And that's going to take place on March the 4th. It's going to be a triple header from Showtime. But they don't say who's fighting on March the 4th, by the way, guys. They're saying it's a triple header.
I don't know. He's he's from Nayarit. That means he's a Kora. He's tough. He looks tough.
Well, watch him fight.
Koras over in Nayarit.
Watch him fight after we're done here. There's a fight from the PBC that he went the distance against another Mexican dude, and he's a tough dude, man. I mean, look, Jared Hurd in his prime would have beaten him, but he doesn't seem like he's in his prime now. Just for information, it's March the 4th to be announced, the date, or the venue rather. Showtime. Excuse me.
Who's fighting?
March the 4th.
To be announced. Mark Magsayo, Brandon Figueroa, 12 rounds.
That's right. So there's going to be another fight added to that. So it's going to be a triple header. Hey, by the way, real quick, before we continue, shout out to Rider of the Storm. Shout out to Rider of the Storm says, Mauricio is selling his soul and WBC legacy for money. Well, shout out to Rider of the Storm for his contribution. There's not much legacy or soul to sell because his father sold it a long time ago. So, I mean, he's got no core inside of him. He's a hollow husk of a man. And he's just doing in this for the money. Trust me on that one. But, guys, I'm just curious to get your opinion. Jared Hurd, he seemed like a fucking monster back in the day. We're talking 4 years ago. And all of a sudden, he looks like, he loses to Julian Williams. Okay. Then he looked subpar in his comeback performance. Then he loses to Luis Arias. What do you guys think? Do you think he took too many shots in his prime, or?
Yeah, even when he was winning those exciting fights that he had against Austin Trout, there's a couple others. He was taking a lot of punches, but he was just still winning. But yeah, he still ate a lot of punches, and probably that resistance is gone now. I'm banking that basically what you said on the information that you put out. I think that the Sandy's guy, the one that's 23 years old, knocks him out.
Oh. Well, watch him first, though. Watch him first, and then you tell me. Because the other guy, too, listen, he's got subpar defense, too. By the way, Jared Hurd, 32 years old. So a guy that's been taking...
that's the thing. He's a pressure guy. He doesn't really crack that hard, Jared Hurd, for his size and everything. He's a pressure guy. He eats too many punches. That's the only reason I would go out on a limb and say that. Because, I mean, the age and he hasn't fought in a long time. So it's not like he's going to punch harder all of a sudden. No, he's going to pretty much punch the same, but he's kind of a shell of himself.
That's right.
That style, basically what I'm saying is that style doesn't last long. That's one thing with that style.
Excellent point, Gonzalo. Because if you look at the Arias fight, for example, he would always do this, Jared Hurd. He would be able to take flush shots, and then by the middle rounds, he would start taking over, especially as the other guy was getting tired. And he would take their second wind away from him because he was so big, too. He would just eat flush shots. In the Arias fight, he was getting hit early, being teed off on, and then you could see that he tried to up it up in the middle rounds, and that gas, he couldn't turn on the afterburners. That's what happens with guys when they're in their 37, 38. This fucker guy's 32. But again, horrible defense. He thought because he was bigger, he could take shots from little guys, not understanding that if you're getting your brain rattled, it's going to take years out of your career. Let's go to a phone call here. Don't forget to hit the like, fellas. Hit the like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. 929, you're on the air. 929, what's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, BDA? Gonzalo, Jimmy. I was reading that Deadline article earlier this week about Showtime possibly merging with Paramount Plus, and yeah, I did read an important part that kind of took my attention. That really raised my eyebrow. That the part that says, as part of the changes, the company will divert investments away from the areas that are underperforming, and that account for less than 10% of our views. And yeah, and it made me curious. So, well, what are those areas? Who are those areas? Do they happen to be live events? Do they happen to involve people fighting each other? Wonder who that could be, huh?
Exactly.
And it did kind of gave me like a flashback to when. Do any of you guys remember when AOL and Time Warner merged? And then you had like WCW that was kind of on its last legs. Like they weren't getting as much ratings. And then I guess apparently people were abandoning ship, and the people, over at TNT and Turner didn't want to give them a new deal. That's kind of what it feels like with PBC. But I wouldn't want to celebrate too early, They got a schedule going, they got fights coming up, for the next 2 months. But beyond that, it's really uncertain. It's kind of like quarter by quarter, just trying to be, I see what they're doing because with this merger, I think they're trying to do is trying to slash down any redundancy and trying to spend money on, trying to have a network budget, because then you would have 2 channels you have to take over, you have to watch over, you know what I mean?
That's a good point. I was unaware of that situation there with the wrestling, but you're right, man. I mean, but now this is a question. I don't know if you can answer this one, Virtuoso, but do they have to spend more money on these boxing fights and the production costs and all that than anything else? How much money are they really pumping into Showtime boxing?
Well, that's the thing. It's it's what they have that has to sell, and whatever content that they have that they're trying to provide for the networks, they're not. I guess it's not bringing in enough viewers because I remember last year Castaño Charlo 2 was the highest rated program, live boxing program in years. That goes to show that they were on a decline, and so if you must have had a thought like a few years down the road, like, if they keep putting out like bad fights on not just pay-per-view but just network television, on cable television, it's gonna turn away fans. And then if you're not gonna get any views, what makes you think that they're gonna keep you around? And so whenever I hear that, they'll just go to another app, and I'm like, well, being that they had a track record of losing money and blowing away network money and putting on like subpar programming, lack of quality control. Do you think they're gonna have any backers like trying to help them launch an app? I don't know.
Oh, you're right, man. You're right. It seems unlikely that they're gonna get out of this one. So we'll see what happens, man. But it's interesting, though. It's interesting that this type of 10% they could be cutting the cost. Because again, 10% could be nothing, could be a lot. But for boxing, it could be disposable for these guys. Again, these guys are not boxing fans. It's executives. If the numbers don't add up,
no, they're not. They don't have any street smarts. That's what it is.
Well, there you go.
These are Ivy League grads, just like Jimmy said.
That's right. All right, well, listen, Virtuoso, man, we got to move on, man, but thank you for your call, and catch you on the next one, right, man?
Yeah, man. Thanks for taking my call. And one last thing. Fuck Mauricio Sulaiman. You suck, bro.
Whoa, shout out to Virtuoso. I agree with the sentiment, but the language not so much there. Try to clean it up next time. All right, shout out to Virtuoso for his...
right on.
That's right, man.
Virtuoso, good call.
Shout out to Virtuoso.
I wanted to mention something else here. All right, we talked about Jared Hurd. Again, you can't have too many fights like the ones he had. Ring TV, the Ring Magazine, formerly known as Ring Magazine, just updated their middleweight rankings. And try to see if you can find the missing element here. You got Golovkin, you got Munguia, you got Zanibek, you got Adames, you got Lim Smith, Ryota Murata, Sergey Davidachenko, Lara, Felix Cash, Chris Eubank Jr. Anyone missing there, guys? That used to be there?
Ring TV. Who's this? Let me see.
Who's missing in the middleweight rankings here?
Middleweights?
Yes.
Is Adames there?
Yes, he is.
Charlo?
That's right. There you go. He's missing. They dropped him for inactivity. And some people are complaining. Well, Munguia didn't want to fight him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whether Munguia did or did not want to fight him, how come this guy can't get a fight? Hasn't fought since June 2021. So half of 2021 out the window, all of 2022 out the window. And we're already in February, and there's just no talk. Actually, that's the thing, though. Regis Prograis said that Ryan Garcia would be easy because he don't got that dog. I'm paraphrasing, but he mentioned the dog thing. He don't got that dog. And because he's had his mental issues. His friend Jermall Charlo, that's what Regis Prograis said, he gave him an update. He said he can't train right now because he's in a bad place mentally. So would it be fair to say that Jermall Charlo is an open target for all the sharks swimming around him? Because he ain't got that dog no more, right? How could I don't know. It seems like I don't know. I understand why people look at that Ryan Garcia and they go, he ain't got the dog. He fights like he's got that dog. That's for sure. He puts pressure on. He doesn't just stand back anymore and try to counterpunch. But he ain't got that dog. But Jermall Charlo, no, he's got that dog. Even though he's got the same mental issues, no, he still got that dog. Why? Is it a skin color thing? Is that what it is? Let's be open about it. But I don't expect a lot of these people to do that. But guys, what do you think about that? Jermall Charlo. I mean, it was inevitable, right?
It's crazy. I don't know what the hell that guy's going through, but it's something serious for sure. Where it's where he's just not mentally strong, or something's going on right there that he's giving up a lot for what could be perceived as little. I don't know. The solution to his problems maybe would be to fight, stay busy, make money, and handle his problems with more resources. That's what I'm basically trying to say.
That's a good point, man. But wouldn't you want to stay in the gym a little bit? I mean, distract you from when you're at the gym, everything else goes away. You zone out. You get to zone out for however long you're in that gym. So it would behoove him to stay sharp a little bit by staying in the gym. I know it's not as sharp as staying active, in a fight, but at least it's something. So whatever he's going through, listen, wish him all the best, but fucking career going by the wayside. I can't help but feel or place some or a lot of the blame on Al Haymon at the PBC. Because, I mean, even his brother, Jermel, who everyone thinks, I mean, some people even have him top 3 pound for pound, if you can believe that. He hasn't fought since June of last year as well, or the summer of last year. So it's something that's endemic with the PBC and not necessarily with these fighters. It's not like the fighters are going crazier or are crazier than they were before. Willie Gonzalez in the chat says, Charlo needs some ayahuasca. He needs something, man. He needs to... Listen, people in this country, they need to be aware. They need to be... Men, especially, they need to be educated on how not to marry certain types of women or how to look out for women that are going to be trouble down the line, especially athletes who make a lot of moolah, a lot of bang, a lot of cheese, a lot of escarol. Because these guys, they get hooked up with the wrong woman, and what happens? Money. And that creates a lot of tension in life. So that somebody, schools, whatever, somebody should teach men how to read the warning signs of a woman that might just end up ruining your life. And again, I'm not saying that that's what's going on with Jermel Charlo, but some people are saying that that's what it could be. The other thing, I want to leave you with this, fellas, because I got to go for a couple of minutes here. But Emmanuel Tago, who went 12 rounds with Ryan Garcia, apparently they're going to match him up with Keyshawn Davis. And already some people are saying, Keyshawn going to destroy that guy. He's going to show Ryan Garcia how it's done. How do you guys see that fight? You guys hold down the fort. I'll be right back.
That's a good test because Ryan Garcia couldn't knock out Emmanuel Tago because Emmanuel Tago is a slippery guy. Ryan Garcia had him hurt. So we're going to see if Keyshawn Davis can knock this guy out. The thing with Keyshawn Davis that I noticed, he's a counter puncher, so he kind of sits back and he waits so he can be like methodical with his attacks. So maybe he's showing a little sign that he doesn't throw a lot of punches and he's like more like a surgical type of boxer. So for him to face Emmanuel Tago, who is kind of slippery, we're going to see if he's going to have enough time and operate, like I mentioned, surgically with enough efficiency to be able to knock this dude out. Yeah, because he's definitely hit harder and he's most likely a better fighter than Emmanuel Tago. But can he break him down in time to look good and even better than Ryan Garcia? That remains to be seen.
Now, who's they talking about fighting? Was he talking about Davis?
That's Keyshawn Davis. I know it's a fighter that he looks pretty good, and you're high on that dude.
Yes. Jimmy. Who are they talking about fighting?
Emmanuel Tago, the guy that fought Ryan Garcia maybe 2 fights ago.
Oh yeah, no, that'd be a good test.
Yeah, because like
Keyshawn Davis, I'm good. I'm high on him.
Jimmy, Ryan Garcia couldn't knock him out. So, I mean, the things that I've noticed with Keyshawn Davis, he's a good fighter, but he likes to surgically dismantle his opponent. He'll just like sit back in the cut, kind of like a counter puncher mentality. And as the other guy starts opening up, he starts dissecting that guy. So with facing a slippery fighter, we're going to see if you can still dissect that guy when that dude's moving around more. And the guy's definitely going to be slippery. So can he perform better than Ryan Garcia?
Absolutely he can. I believe so because Ryan Garcia isn't as good a boxer as Keyshawn Davis, and he'll be able to figure out a way of corner him because that was the problem. Remember, Garcia got frustrated, like stop running, like stand there, let me knock you out type thing. It's like, dude, go get him. You know what I mean? But Davis isn't. Garcia, that's not how he's built. You know what I mean? Like, that he's a counter puncher and he kind of has that lean back style. He's waiting to catch you with that check left. He's not about hunting dudes down. And so it was easy for Tago to get on his bike and not try to engage. Keyshawn Davis, I believe, will hunt him down.
Yeah, I didn't know. Do you think Keyshawn Davis has a mental attitude of a counterpuncher as well? Jimmy?
No, he's a kind of, he's not, so much of like just a stalker, but he hits hard and he likes to stop people. He definitely likes going for the knockout. Terrence Crawford sings his praises, and he's pretty stingy with his compliments. You don't hear Terrence Crawford talk up a lot of fighters. And that's one of the guys over the years he's definitely talked up. So I'm curious, but I believe he'd be able to hunt them down.
Yeah, we'll see. That's good for ESPN and Top Rank that they're promoting these guys and they're moving them up. They're moving them up the way they should.
See, there you go. Keyshawn Davis seems to be a guy that's going, okay, give me that guy, and I won't demand. Or as far as I know, he's not demanding certain fights like Berlanga appear to have. I will say this: Keyshawn Davis, if he wants to stop Tagoe and upstage Ryan Garcia, he can't do what he was doing against Burgos, which was just loading up on single shots. 1-2, 2-1, 2 left foot. Because Tagoe is going to read that, and he's going to, as we saw against Ryan Garcia, he can survive those type of onslaughts. And so we'll see what happens with Keyshawn Davis. Maybe Davis will try to cut the ring off better and get on the inside, like fight chest to chest and just wear him down that way. Because if it's just 2 shots at a time, if it's just 2 shots at a time, reset, 2 shots at a time, reset, I think a guy like Tagoe can read that. So we'll see what happens, man. But it's interesting. Let me just read. When was that fight gonna get made?
Yeah, not only that, BDA, he's from Ghana. It means something. I mean, we see that sometimes where you're from and what nationality you are, you carry certain traits that identify certain boxers like Mexicans, pressure fighters. Well, the Ghanaian dude, he's got a good beard because Ryan Garcia cracked him with a very, very solid punch that it's out there on YouTube. And the dude survived that.
People listen. Did he make some mistakes, Garcia, in that one? Yes, he did. But he pressured the guy. He pressured a slickster. He didn't try to outbox him. He really pressured him, hurt him twice, just couldn't get him out of there. So if Keyshawn Davis, and that's a big if he can stop him, it would be good, man, depending on how he stops him. But yes, apparently it's being reported for April the 8th in Newark, New Jersey. So I'm assuming that would probably be on the undercut of a Shakur. Yeah, there we go. It would probably be on the undercut of Shakur Stevenson versus Yoshino. So that's an old prospect or whatever you want to call it card there. Not old prospect, but I think they're friends or something, whatever. So yeah, it would make sense. They appear to be a mild local attraction there. But we'll see what happens with those guys, man. We'll see what happens because again, Tagoe, and like you said, Gonzalo, these guys from Ghana, they have a rich boxing tradition as well. And they have some tough sparring. I've seen those videos there where they're in the Ghanaian gyms. If you thought the gyms in Mexico were bad, these ones are fucking, everything's broken, everything's old. They don't even have padding. Sometimes they just put, ropes, a square, and they're fighting on concrete. These guys are tough, man.
That's a good trade. Those are good training methods, man. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's like TJ, man. You go into like this little hole in the wall gym, and then all of a sudden you see a world champion training there, and the equipment ain't that great, but they're still doing the neck exercises. They're still putting that, there's the hand wrap where they put it like horizontally from one end to another end, and you're doing the waist movement. You're dipping down continuously in a straight line. You got the mirrors. You got the mirrors and you got the old punching bag with a whole bunch of like gray tape around them, and everything's patched up together. Fucking some ripped up gloves.
Sometimes, Gonzalo, sometimes you'll go to these new gyms where it's a hybrid gyms. It's not just boxing. It's like weightlifting and boxing and some mixed martial arts, and they've got everything's nice and pristine. They've got air conditioning. And here's my thing though: if you go into the reception room and it looks like a Starbucks and they're selling lattes and the fucking protein bars, it might have lost a little bit of its soul. I'm not saying necessarily that it's a bad gym because, again, it depends, it's all about the trainers really and the type of sparring you get and all that. But, there is something about greedy gyms where the equipment stinks, things break down, the mirror's dirty. I don't know, maybe it's a stereotype, but it does seem like people are putting in work in that type of environment. But again, it's a superficial thing though. It's the trainers and the sparring and the people that counts. Don't get me wrong. Shout out to Plutonium Loads for his contribution to the super chat. He says, Keyshawn and Shakur, man, I don't know, pretty sus. Los culos hermanos. What do you got? See, Plutonium Loach, he's been taking it easy the last couple of weeks when he leaves comments and does super chats, and he's been on his best behavior, and then he comes out with this one. Just like Caleb Truex, he reels you in, and then before you know him, boom, he hits you with a big one. Los culos hermanos. I mean, come on now. And Shakur Stevenson, I don't think he's a homo. I think he's got multiple baby mamas, I think. What was I going to... Oh, yeah, we got a phone call here. Let's go to 972. So shout out to Plutonium Loach, by the way. 972, you're on the air. 972, what's on your mind?
What's going on, fellas?
What's up, man?
I'm all right, man. This is the Texas Bulldog, man. You know, I'm just iced in, kind of still listening to the show, so I thought I'd call in again, man. I always love being a part of the panel.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. What's on your mind?
So I was just listening, man, and like I said, you know, I'm kind of stuck at home. I can't go nowhere, but I kind of thought I'd play devil's advocate for a minute. And as far as PBC, they do kind of have a monopoly going on boxing, but at the same time, we can't act like they don't try to deliver some fights sometimes. You know, we got Figueroa coming up. We got a few other fights coming up on Showtime. And as far as the whole pay-per-view model goes, I think that more speaks to the economy more than just boxing in general because, for example, man, I just got back from a grocery trip, and a $200 trip back in 2017, 2015, you know, that was a full buggy, you know, full of stuff that I could pack my fridge with. But right now, dude, you know, we spent over $200, and we got the bare minimum. There's 1 pack of blueberries, 2 packs of chicken, you know, like the bare minimum. So I anticipate us seeing more pay-per-views in the future, not just because boxing wants to charge us more just because, but more so because we live in an economy right now where it's the dollar is weak, to be honest, man. At least in America, the dollar is weak right now. And also, as far as Bivol better Biev goes, I feel like Bivol would prefer that fight for all the belts, only because as fans, you know, it's not our names that are going into the history books. Bivol probably wants his name to live on as long as possible, and I understand that. The same way that Devin Haney has his name in the history books and every other undisputed champion, those names go on even long after we're gone. So I understand the thinking. If they make that happen, if they make that fight happen without the WBC belt, I wouldn't be that mad at it, only because we're still getting the fight. But from a boxing perspective, I understand why he would want that fight for all the belts. I don't know if anybody else understands that.
No, I agree with what you're saying, man. It wouldn't be the end of the world. But then again, that's a bad sign because that means we're desensitized to this big fight. I mean, it's fair. It's not going to get any better. Beterbiev is going to get older and slower and worse. And meanwhile, here we are. Just, well, it might happen this year. It might not happen this year.
Yeah, some of these fights that are already lined up. Errol Spence Crawford, that's not really one of the fights that I'm talking about. I know we have a better chance of securing a fight like Henry Lomachenko, Fury, Usyk, and, you know, some other good fights. But as boxing fans, we've always kind of just been gluttons for punishment. So I know for myself, at least, I'm going to stick with the sport through thick and thin. I mean, of course, there's some bullshit going on, but nothing in this life is perfect. But hopefully they could deliver more good than bad because, in general, boxing is in a decline. We still get good fights, but man, dude, when you compare it to MMA, dude, you know, number 1 and number 2 go head-to-head all the time. In boxing, man, you got to find that unicorn, and it's getting kind of old, man, but I still love the sport, man, and I'm sure other people do. It's a lot to take on sometimes. And as far as pay-per-views, you kind of got to pick and choose. I know people are going to stream. You know, I still got cable and shit, so my cable bill going to be high regardless. But if it's a good enough fight, I'll pay for the fight. But obviously, if it's like Crawford Evanesian, I'm probably going to stream it, if I'm going to stream it at all. But hopefully, we got some quality fights coming up, man. And Showtime isn't a perfect company, but at the same time, if we could free up boxing a little bit more to get some fights that the fans actually want, I think that'd be a benefit to the sport, not just the fighters. Because a lot of the time, you know, stuff benefits the promoters and it benefits the fighters. When it comes to fans, we usually get the short end of the stick. And, you know, we're the ones that keep the sport alive, in my opinion.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. It's you got to pick and choose, and that's that's the bad thing for the boxing promoters is that now people can just stream the fight and watch it. They don't like the fact that it's on pay-per-view, but they'll steal it, and then it just makes things a little bit worse. But you're right, man. Listen, I'm right there with you. Hopefully, and the economy too, like you mentioned, the economy. People can just go around paying $75 for a fight that should be on premium cable. But anyway, listen, Texas Bulldog, man, we got to move on. Thank you for your call and have yourself a great evening, all right, man?
Likewise, fellas. Y'all take it easy, man.
All right, take it easy. Yeah, man. See, that's the thing, though. That's the thing we're hearing from everybody out there. That's the main thing. You go to the grocery store, everything's now jacked up. The prices, the dollar's losing its value. Inflation's coming. One of these days, mega inflation or super inflation, whatever they call it. People don't have the fucking time or the money, the infrastructure to be paying these pay-per-views, man. $80, because it's 75 plus tax, whatever. 80, 85, 90. Come on now. And then every 2 months or 2 pay-per-views a month, it's man, I'm telling you, man. Right now, we're in a little bubble here, boxing, but much bigger things are playing out and moving in the real world. And it could get bad, man. Could get bad real quick. What else was I going to say? Well, anything else you guys want to say before we move on? Because we're almost at the 2-hour mark here.
About anything in particular, or?
Well, actually, let me give you 2 seconds to think about that. Shout out to Mr. Nes Mendoza for his contribution to Super Chat. He says, smash the like, fellas. Charlo needs mental health, in my opinion. In my honest opinion. Charlo needs mental health. Well, there you go. Shout out to Nes Mendoza. Always looking out for us and for the fighters as well. Shout out to Nes Mendoza. Yes, fellas.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to touch on?
I agree with Ness. I believe he does too. I think, honestly, that kid needs to focus on. I mean, how can that? It came out right that he's having bad. I mean, he was on the verge of losing his house. His marriage is falling apart. That's real world shit going on. Like I say it all the time. We put that disconnect as fans. We do it with athletes. We just look at him as the athlete, but they deal with the same bullshit as everybody. Just because being famous, in your clique or whatever niche you do in life, just sometimes exacerbates it, doesn't make it better. So, yeah. And if he's dealing with all that, you don't want to see nothing bad happen to these guys. So I hope he does pull his shit together, because boxing is just a small part. Like you said, Mr. BDA, they live a long life after boxing.
Exactly, man. Exactly. It would be, it's one thing to root against a fighter, but it's nothing personal. I mean, it is personal because you dislike the guy's character, but it's only boxing. Outside of that, you want to see these guys do okay or do well, and for him to be going through this, it's a different type of stuff, man. Shout out to I think Pitches out there. What's that?
Oh, it's the same. When people say, "Oh, you really hate Al Haymon," I'm like, I don't hate him at all. If anything, I respect him. He's smart enough to fucking pull all the shit he's pulled. But, yeah, I respect his connivingness. I don't hate somebody. I don't hate him. I don't know him. I wouldn't waste that emotion on him. You know what I mean? Exactly. To me, that's a big thing. Like, everybody throw, you hater. No, I don't hate. To me, when I look at, like, hate is the same way I look at the word love. Like, to love somebody means you, like, to really love somebody, you put your life on the line for that person. That's what love is. You know what I mean? You'd be willing to give anything for them. And hate, if I hate someone, that means, to me, I want them to die. I hate it. That means if I fucking, seriously, that's how, because to me, it's a serious word. I've grown up, I don't know, maybe it's an Italian thing. You get smack in the mouth if you're a little kid. If you said, I hate him, spack. You don't say that, because in Italian, especially in Italian house, hate is a strong thing, man. It's secured for people who really do you dirty. Because if you go hating everybody who just, somebody calls you a fucking FAG or something, like, come on. It's just so, yeah. I don't hate anybody involved in boxing because they don't mean that much to me.
You're right, man. You're absolutely right. People need to get the priorities straight. And hopefully Charlo gets his as well. We'll see what happens. With that being said, we do have to move on. I want to thank you guys, Gonzalo and Jimmy, for jumping in and having this nice little episode here. Nice little evening episode. Never hurt nobody. And we'll be back, well, I don't think Sunday, because unless something monumental happens with the fights on Friday, And then you got the Bros fighting on Saturday. You never know. I'm mostly skip those. So we'll see what happens. We'll see.
Play it by ear, right? We'll see what happens. Yeah, play it by ear. Maybe some news will break like happened today. You know.
Yes. And well, tomorrow we
BDA,
have.
Can you?
Yes.
Can you believe? Sorry. Can you believe on a personal note? About a month ago, I jumped on the scale. I was weighing 89 kilos. This morning, I woke up 82.5 kilos.
Oh,
that's like freaking almost 15 pounds, man.
Jeez, Louise.
Good for you.
And see, you could have done. Yeah.
I'm drinking. Smash a few garlics and put a little like tad of olive oil, extra virgin, and 2 lemons, 3 times a day.
Nice.
That tonic, I'm telling you, man.
Well, I mean,
garlic, lemon, and a tad of olive oil, like the cap. And along with your exercises and your intermittent fasting, that's the key. I'm going to jump to 1 meal instead of 2. 8 on, 16 hours off, 2 meals, but I'm going to cut down to 1 because I'm motivated.
Yeah, and that teaspoon of oil, it gives you nice, especially in the morning, it gives you a nice dose of fat, of healthy fat. It's always good. And it's got a whole bunch of other properties that I'm unaware of. But yeah, man.
Over in Italy and Greece, man, the old timers drink that shit. They take shots of it, shots of pure olive oil.
There you go, man.
There's actually, there's a town in northern Greece, I believe, where they live so much on olive oil that they all, on average, live over 100 years old.
Yeah,
like
I heard about that.
Japanese on islands, they eat all fish. Yeah, so it's definitely.
Well, they eat a lot of.
I mean, it's been one of the most. What's that, brother?
They eat a lot of natural fat over there in that Greek town too. So natural fat, contrary to popular belief for a long time, people would say, "Oh, don't eat fat, don't eat fat." No, it's saturated fats. We're talking natural fat. It's pretty good, especially if you're working out and if you're in ketosis. Poof, that's the best, man. Your body just burns through that shit. It doesn't store it as fat. So
I bought a freezer too last night, and I bought a bunch of fish, like 8 kilos of fish, and I sliced it up into portions and toppers, and I made myself for like every day, like a little topper, just a fish.
A big freezer, like enough, like a big freezer enough to like. What's
6
that?
cubics. I'm sorry, 6 cubics.
Oh wow!
It's not that big.
You could. Oh, okay. Because you want one. What the ideal is one big enough that like you can put the hooker's body on the bottom and cover it with fruit and shit.
I mixed in the cabbage, like the California peppers. I don't know the bell peppers, and cauliflower and broccoli. I'm making into a salad, and I'm gonna put that in the freezer. It's still in the refrigerator. I'm gonna make like 10 toppers of that. That way I can use the topper like for 2-3 days, along with my ration of fish.
I was cracking a joke. I said, you want to get one big enough that you can fit a hooker in the bottom.
See, I didn't even catch that. I didn't even catch it. What the fuck? I didn't even catch that. What the fuck, Jimmy?
I mean, you freeze a body, man, and it screws up the coroners. The key is you want to wrap it tight so it doesn't get freezer burn, because the coroners will notice that. If not, because then they'll find it and they'll think it died within, it sets off the time of death. It's how the Iceman got away with for so long. He would dump his bodies 2 years after he murdered them, and the time of death would be like 2 days ago when they've been dead for 2 years.
We got Jimmy.
But they finally found ice, I think, around the intestines of one of his victims, and they said, "Hey, what's going on? It's summertime."
We got Jimmy Dahmer over here. Jimmy Dahmer. That's going to be his new nickname. Well,
I have to, because in the winter, I'm a New England dude. I can't. The ground's frozen solid unless you get yourself, a backhoe or something. I'm not going to be out there with a shovel, like half a fucking bonehead.
So what do you do? What?
I said in the winter, the ground's frozen.
Sure.
You can't dig in that shit unless you get an excavator.
Yeah, no, that's insane. What are you talking about, man? The black ice, once it's stuck to the fucking street, forget about it. And it's slip and slide.
And hang them upside down, bleed them.
Okay, come on, Jimmy, what the fuck, Jimmy? What are you doing? What are you doing? This is very unlike you, man. Very unlike you.
Like, bro, you're going too far, dog.
It's the fucking
going too far.
What do they call that? Gemini effect. Oh no, the Gemini. That hitman in New York had the Gemini Club. He would invite you in, and they had a whole system set up. Bang, bang, bada bing, bada boom. From the time they squeezed the trigger to the time you're in suitcases in the landfill, it was like 25 fucking minutes. No, it was a couple hours.
I hope you got thick walls so that your neighbors aren't listening to everything you say, because they're going to go, what the fuck's going on over at that house?
My neighbors, my kid, they'd be over there, all right, dude, hey, say that slower so I can get that down.
Come on. Don't throw your neighbors under the bus. Neighborly, there's something in the Bible about neighbors. Anyway, we got to go. But shout out to you two fellas, Jimmy, Gonzalo. Thank you for being on. Hopefully boxing continues to restructure itself. Shout out to everybody that donated with the super chat. Shout out to everybody that called in and everybody who listened in. You guys know who you are. The brain eater from Birmingham. What a name. I think he tuned in just to listen to Jimmy's talk about the freezers and all that. Shout out to Nes Mendoza, Vince Vegas, Alfredo Contreras, the Quags, Eparcua, Rapax Drunky Company in the house, One Foot at the Door, Knockout Ned in there as well. Many other people that I forgot, but it's because we got to move on, fellas. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Jojo, take it easy, fellas. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you in the next one, fellas. Salud.
Let me tell you why. It's gonna be all right, Nicky. Go ahead, shoot.
He just killed a fucking man.
What are you going to do about it?
You're happy because you got nothing. You don't got a thing. You're happy because you got nothing. Got nothing.
I want to get out. I want to get out of this rat hole. I want to get online. I need
BDA Boxing.